What's up guys, and welcome back to another G35 video. So in this video we're going to be installing some gauges on the G35. I'm really excited because this is very useful and it's just nice information to have on your G35 or any car. So as many of you guys know, the 350Z has an oil pressure gauge, which I am really jealous of because I wish the G35 came with that. So that's what we're going to be installing today. This gauge has an oil temp and oil pressure in the same gauge, so we can have both of them and not waste too much space. So let's go ahead and check out the gauge pod and the gauge that I ended up picking up for the car. Alright guys, so here we have the gauge pod and we have the gauge itself. I ended up going with a Glowshift gauge. It's the only one that I could find that had oil temp and oil pressure in the same gauge, which is really cool. And we also got the gauge pod. This is a 3-gauge gauge pod, so that way we can have a bunch of gauges and have a lot of useful information. So in this video I will be installing this gauge that has the oil temp and oil pressure. In the next video I'm going to be installing the water temp with a brand new radiator and a bunch of stuff for the track. And the third one will be empty for quite a bit, just because I am going to be prepping this car for it. You guys may or may not already think of what it could be, but yeah, that'll be in the future. So I have multiple reasons for installing gauges on this car. First of all, if you guys are familiar with the channel, I'm going to be doing a track build on the G35, so I'm prepping it all for the track. I want to make sure I'm not overcooking my oil because I know it's bad. I have an oil cooler, but I still want to make sure that I'm keeping everything in the right temperatures. And the other reason is it's great information to have as a daily driver as well. I know it's kind of overkill for a daily driver, but having these gauges really lets you know how the car is. Like I said, the 350Zs have this stock from factories, so I wish the G35 had this from factory so I wouldn't have to do this. This is where the gauge pod is going to be sitting, so when I'm driving I'll be able to see all of my gauges right here. More than anything, it's just a long process in getting all the wiring through everywhere and making sure everything's good. I already have a sandwich plate on my oil cooler, so that way I have a really easy place to put these sensors already. So with all that being said guys, let's go ahead and start the install. So now with the car on the air, we're going to go ahead and first install the sensors, then run the wire all the way into the car. That way we don't have to worry about going under here anymore. I am going to have to play it risky. I'll show you guys what I mean right now. Here is the sandwich plate that I was talking about. So this is where I'm going to be plugging both of my sensors. So I'm going to have oil pressure and then oil temperature right here. So now the scary part about this is that this is full of oil from the oil cooler, from, you know, just everything flowing through. Now the tricky part is to take both of these bolts out and not have all the oil that is flowing and all the oil that is here to start pouring out and lose a ton of oil. So this is going to be a challenge for sure, trying to get this all to work, but let's go ahead and knock this out. So now the reason why I ended up going with Glowshift instead of going with AM is mainly just the price. I really didn't want to spend too much on an oil pressure and oil temperature sensor, so I ended up picking up a Glowshift. I didn't want to break the bank trying to just have 2 of those sensors, so I ended up going with one sensor that has 2 readings. Oh shit! Wait, where'd it go? Okay. Oh fuck! No! Oh, I'm getting oil all over my hands. Oh, okay. I think I plugged it up. So this is going to be the second one that we're going to be installing. So let me go ahead and take it out. All right, where's the other sensor? Okay, all right. So let me go ahead and snug this, and then we'll be able to run all the wiring. If I ever in the future also need to go ahead and replace any of these sensors for whatever reason, maybe they're not working or they're not reading right anymore, it's not going to be a hassle to do because you know, they're just right here. So I definitely recommend, if you guys are looking to do oil pressure and oil temperature, to go ahead and buy this oil sandwich plate. It's literally just plug and play, you're done, and then you can go ahead and install your sensors and everything else. So the first thing we're going to do is put this connector into the oil pressure sensor. So it literally just clicks into place like this. Now to connect the temperature sensor, we're going to do black to black and then white to white, and that's about it. Alright guys, so some time has passed, and as you can see, I ended up using the drill to go ahead and drill some holes so I can pass the wires through. There isn't really a good way to go ahead and route the wires unless you already have a hole that you ended up drilling out for some other reason, like an amp or something else. I ended up just drilling out a hole so that way I can pass all these wires through. Now the goal is just to connect these to the gauge and also just keep them out of sight so that way you can have a clean install. Now that we have this, let's go ahead and take off the A-pillar so we can go ahead and drill that as well. To take off the A-pillar, you're going to want to use something like a little pry tool or maybe even a flathead screwdriver. So what you're going to do is you're going to go ahead and pry in between the weather stripping and the A-pillar. So you literally just pry it, and there's two clips, one up top and then one like in the middle. So once you pry those two, you'll be able to take off this A-pillar. Alright guys, so we ended up drilling 3 holes for the wiring that goes to each of the gauges. These are going to be drilled out before you install the cover onto the original one. That way you don't damage the cover. So we're going to put the cover over it, and we're going to go ahead and drill 4 holes on each of the corners so that way we can put the little clips that it comes with. In the instructions, it says to drill holes that are 3/16 of an inch. So that's what we're going to be doing, so that way we can go ahead and put the clips on and we don't have this fall.
Hey guys!
Dude, how many videos has it been since you've been in a video?
Dude, I don't know. It's been a while.
Thomas is gonna hold the original one as close as you can to the black one. Wow, that was really easy.
Oh, I wasn't holding them lined up, dog.
Shit. Putting the clip on now. Oh,
like a glove.
It actually fits pretty nice.
Like a glove.
Look at that.
Look at that, dude. That's beautiful.
Look at that.
This isn't like a full-on replacement, which kind of sucks. And for $100 for this piece of plastic, you would, I mean, ideally wanted to do that. This is going to be holding them together. What a lot of people don't do is they end up not drilling it, and they end up just putting this over when they're doing like a pull, or they'll be driving aggressively like in the canyons and stuff. The cover flops down, the gauges and everything, like it just falls down and it looks really ghetto. I wanted to actually drill it and not just kind of like put it together.
Rock solid.
This is the ultimate test.
Just falls out.
I drop it.
Imagine, dude.
Like I said earlier, we also ended up drilling these holes. There's 3 holes right here. We ended up drilling those 3 just so that we can run the wire through and we don't have to worry about taking off the clips. I'm planning on keeping the clips just on there and not taking them off. That way I don't have to keep taking off both covers, and I can just pass the wiring through it. So now that this is done, we can install this on the car, and then we can just install the gauges. Alright guys, so it has been a bit since the last update that I gave you guys. So I already hooked up all the wiring that goes to the gauge. I ended up following the instructions, and I ended up hooking everything up. First off, I need to show you guys that it actually works so that way you guys can believe me. Here we have it working. So the top one is temperature and the bottom one is oil pressure, and since the car isn't on, I have 0 oil pressure, so that's why it says 0. You can see that it is working, and not only that, I already put it into the orange setting so that way I can have it that color. So the cool part is that when I turn this off, it'll stay orange because it's having constant power. That way it doesn't forget and go and default into blue. So this is really cool and it's ready to go. So let me show you guys what I ended up going into and how I did it. So the first thing you are going to need is called a fuse tap. So what a fuse tap does, it essentially taps into your existing fuses and it creates another way for you to get power into whatever you need. Not only will it keep that 10 amp fuse that you were using, you also get an extra 10 amp fuse for the specific one you're using as well. That way you have everything protected still and you're not sacrificing anything. So this is a very important step. Without this, you really are going to be struggling finding wires themselves and trying to splice into them. Here is the fuse diagram that you're going to need so you can understand what you're looking at. So the first one we're going to look at is yellow, and that one's constant. So for constant, I went ahead and did electrical parts because that's based off the battery, so it'll always be getting current. So the constant is going to remember your orange lighting so that every time you turn on your car, it's always orange and it's not any other color. The orange wire, I ended up connecting it into your daytime running lights. It actually doesn't work that way because this is a battery one as well, so it's always getting power. So I need to figure out where I'm gonna go ahead and put it. It doesn't actually dim it when you turn on your headlights because this always has power. Your black is your ground. So what I did for that one, I have a ring terminal, so that way I can go ahead and put it into anything that has a bolt on it, so that way I don't have to look into splicing in wires. And then the last one is the red one, which is your ignition one. So for ignition, I ended up going with this first one right here. When you turn on your ignition, it works that way. The only thing I need to figure out for is the dimming, so that way when I turn on my headlights, it dims. But other than that, it's ready to go, so let's go ahead and install it. Everything is done, everything is hooked up onto the sensor, so we're good to go there. I'm not gonna lie, this looks pretty sick having it, so let's go ahead and test it out one more time so you can see how it looks. It cycles through at first, and then it shows you the temperature up top, and then you have your oil pressure at the bottom. So something that you guys may be wondering is where all the wiring went and how I got it up there. I ended up running the wires right here, you can kind of see them, and I ended up running it all in between the weather stripping and the dash, all the way up, and it goes into the gauge. So that's really quick, really simple. All you got to do is literally pull this, and you can see the wires are right there, and then I pop it back into place. This is the driver's side front tire, and here is the back fender liner. So this is where I ended up drilling the hole, so you can see the wires going all the way up to the hole. This is a really good spot in my opinion, just because you don't have to worry about water, you don't have to worry about anything else getting in there. You can block it with the fender liner once you're done, and you're good to go, so you don't have to worry about anything else. Obviously, if you guys have any questions, leave a comment down below, and I'll go ahead and help you guys out. This isn't really a hard thing to do. It just takes a lot of time and making sure you're doing things right, and you should be good to go. So there you guys have it. That's the install. Dude, I really can't get over how cool that looks. Again, if you guys have any questions on the install, since I didn't go into specific detail, leave a comment down below and I'll make sure to answer them as best as I can. But with that being said, guys, I hope you did enjoy this video. Give it a like if you did. Subscribe if you're new around here. We have plenty of G35 content on the channel for you. We got mods, we got performance, we got maintenance, everything you can think of. So definitely check out the channel and subscribe. Anyways, guys, I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.